Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests on the line this morning. We have Dr. Wes Bellamy and Candace Hollingsworth. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Peace, King. Peace, Queen. I'm glad that y'all joining us this morning. They have been developing something that I think is so dope and so necessary for Black people, for people who feel like they don't know whether they want to be conservative, Democrat. It is our Black Party. Our Black Party is what y'all been working on. Talk to us about our Black Party.
So first, I want to thank you guys for having us this morning. It is honestly a phenomenal day for us. We're excited. It's launch day for something that we think is going to, quite honestly, change the world and change our communities. Our Black Party, honestly, is taking advantage of the fact that this is a moment of collective frustration for everybody across the country. People are frustrated with politics, politicians, and not seeing policies that reflect changes that are going to make a difference in their everyday lives. And our Black Party is established to be one of those solutions to help make those changes in the political systems for everyday Black folks.
When we think about
Wes?
it's very simple, just to add on to Candace's point. Before you were a Democrat, before you were a Republican, before you were independent or libertarian, you were Black. And it's time for us to own our own politics. And specifically, we're trying to use our Black Party as a vehicle for our voices to be heard on a wide spectrum of things.
You know, I love your shirt. My people are Black. So I'm assuming it said my priorities are Black.
My politics are Black.
My politics are Black.
Why do more people don't subscribe to that? More Black people.
Well, I think we've been conditioned to not necessarily value ourselves all the time and put ourselves or center ourselves first. We've always been told that from the political scheme and the political game is a white man's game. It's a white person's game. When you think about disenfranchisement, when you think about voter suppression, when you think about just the lack of African Americans who have been in elected office, it's always been something that only one or a few of us have access to. But we want to change that. And we believe that our Black Party, again, is the vehicle to do so. We have a platform in which we're looking to develop 1,000 new Black elected officials across the country by the year 2024. We have some other platform issues, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But again, it's time for us to own our own politics and our own voice. Black lives will not matter until Black policies do.
Now, how can people register, and how do you prove to voters that this party is knowledgeable and will matter?
Yes, I think the big difference for us is that, one, we are trying to take the voice of the protests into the halls of power where it belongs. The group of us who are assembled for the steering committee are either current elected officials or former elected officials who, quite honestly, are not allowing fear to prevent us from doing what's needed for our communities. And we're establishing that network across the country among elected officials, among organizers, community leaders, and people like you, just everyday folks. And so we want people to go to the website, www.ourblackparty.org, and sign up to get connected to the party in that way.
Now, is it only open to Black people? Because that's the first thing people would say that. Is it only for Black people, or can anybody be part of our Black Party?
There is no successful
I keep seeing Black Liberty Party. What is it called?
Our Black Party.
Our Black Party. Okay. Our Black
Party.
It's
ours. It's ours.
Our Black Party. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There is no successful movement in this country that's been tackled without the support of allies and accomplices. And we don't see this as being any different in that regard.
To that point,
Candace,
when we say we need allies and we need accomplices, we need individuals who are willing to put it all on the line. So you can show us that you're an ally or an accomplice with your time, your talent, your treasure. We need your support. And again, for Black folk or for anyone else who wants to join in, we want to make sure that this is something that belongs to all of us. And you can do so by joining us at ourblackparty.org.
Candace and Wes, what would you say to folks who say, why wait until we are a few months away from November to do this?
Well, the fact of the matter is the time of the essence is now. We've seen throughout history, people will always say that there's never a right time for Black folk to take control of our own politics. People will always tell us to wait. Even when you think about the letter from Birmingham jail from Dr. King, he talks about the white moderate. And I would argue that we even have the same issue with the Black moderate today. people who say that this is an effort that's going to be a distraction. This is something that's going to mess up the election. But we have to be very candid and very clear. If Black folk taking control of our own policies and our own politics messes up a presidential election, then that's a larger issue that the candidates have to address. When we talk about what we need to do for our people, it's not just about the presidential election. There are gubernatorial races going on. There are state Senate races. There are senator races, House seats, mayoral elections, city council elections, district attorney elections, and we need to use our collective energy to address those issues now. We cannot wait. The time of the essence is now, and Black folk have to take control of our politics today.
You want to expound on that, Candace?
I think what's interesting is that people expect us to, and by us, I mean Black folks, to come from a position where we're begging people for support. They also anticipate that we are going to participate in the system willingly and without asking for anything, while recognizing that that very system is one that is violent for Black people. Political systems in this country are violent systems. They expect us to participate, to give our all without giving anything in return. And in this moment, we are saying, you know what, we've honestly just had enough of people taking our votes for granted, and we want you to earn our vote. That is not saying that you don't participate in the political process. That is not saying that you don't have a right to that political process. Instead, it is saying we need to come from a position of power to say these are the things that our communities need. We need to shift the debate, reframe the conversation so that the priorities of our communities are not just talking points, and they're not just chants that people suddenly, like Big Crit says, it's almost like Mount Olympus. Suddenly people are interested in saying Black Lives Matter, but that doesn't mean anything until we see real policies and real commitments that are going to change the lives of everyday people.
Why do you think people are afraid of the word Black? Like you say Black Lives Matter, oh my gosh, Black Lives Matter. And the same thing with this Our Black Party. Do you think you'll have the same situations and possibly the same problems with that?
Undoubtedly. I think there are going to be people who are saying this is a distraction. There'll be people who are saying that, why do you have to have just a Black party? But when we're being, again, very candid, when you look around the country, you see a wide variety of different groups and cultural constituencies who have their own political practices and bodies. When you look at the Latinx community, the Irish community, the Jewish community, when you look at the Tea Party and the phenomenon that took place a few years back, all these subgroups and all of these other people have the ability, and they don't get pushed back for taking control of their politics. Why is it that when Black folks say that we're going to do the same, that it's a problem? But we firmly believe that irregardless of any of the naysayers or what anyone else may say, we have a duty and obligation to make sure that our people are represented. You know, there's a song that's on the J Electronica album that I love the best, and it's on the track number 2. This ain't for you scared Negroes. All you scared to death Negroes, all you scared to death Negroes, sit down and send your master out. This is for our people who are tired of not being represented, who are tired of not having their voice heard. This is a vehicle. It's not the total vehicle. It's not the end all be all, but this is a vehicle for us to get to where we need to be.
What got y'all to this point? Like when you look at Democrats, when you look at Republicans, what about those parties turned y'all off enough to start your own? Candace?
So for me, you know, as a mayor in a small city outside of DC, we are nonpartisan elections. So I've rolled my entire electoral career in a nonpartisan way. I've had to kind of pay attention to the issues and make solutions, design solutions that address the needs of my community. And when I look at what happens in our political system, it is honestly based off of trades and negotiations. And the democracy that we have is built off of the negotiation of Black bodies and Black humanity. When we think about the 3/5 compromise, that was essentially to make it such that we minimize the voice of Black people or the presence of Black people in order to elevate the voices of Southerners in the legislature. And that is not something that is not a tradition that we need to continue at this point in time. That is not to say that there isn't value to having parties so that people can be able to ascribe to belief systems that they believe reflect their own point of view. But at the same time, the Black point of view is important. It is one that is worthy of recognition, and it is one that we need to lead first with regard to the needs of our community.
You know, first of all, I feel so bad because we're so disrespectful. We're acting like we're just up here talking to two people who decided to have their own party. Candace was a mayor. Wes was a vice mayor, right?
I'm currently mayor.
Currently mayor. I'm sorry, Candace.
Yeah.
What's the town you're mayor of, Candace?
Hyattsville,
Maryland, in Prince George's County.
Hyattsville, Maryland. Okay, now.
And she's the first African-American mayor in the city's 134-year history, too, by the way.
So these are two people that know what the hell they talking about.
Congratulations, yeah.
These are two people that know what the hell they talking about. Okay? These aren't two people just sitting at home tweeting about, starting their own birthday party like Kanye West. They actually have, an official party. Now, why do you think black people are so loyal to Democrats?
Well, we've been conditioned. If we just had to take a guess, right? I think we've been conditioned to believe that this is the party that represents us. And when we talk about our Black Party, we're very clear. We're not looking to start a third party. This is a platform for those who are kind of in the know, quote unquote. This is a political platform, a political committee in which we're looking to provide a vehicle for people to have their needs and their concerns addressed. Individuals have been loyal to the political spectrum that we currently have, Democrats and Republicans, because that's what we've been told is who's going to represent us. However, if we're being candid again, we know that these political entities on both sides of the aisle have not always put Black folk at the center of what it is that they're needing to do. Specifically, when you look at the Democratic Party, considering that Black folk, just by data, you can look this up. These are stats that are proven. Black folk are the most loyal voting Black in the Democratic Party. And I think it's time for us to have a vehicle that not only pushes Democrats, but pushes Republicans, pushes independents, pushes libertarians, whoever, to say that Black people and our needs and what we want have to be centered. Again, before you were Democrat, before you were Republican, before you were assigned to any other political affiliation, you were and you are Black. And it's time for you to identify as such with your politics. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the only thing I would add for that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only thing I would add for that is that it's not just being conditioned to be Democrat, it's being conditioned to ignore our collective self-interest. And it is time out for all that.
Mayor Hollingsworth, that's a great point. And I was going to ask, is there a problem with Black people being conservatives? Because some Black people think that for whatever reason, conservatives, cater more to Black people's self-interest. Well, at least the Trump administration is what I've been hearing.
Is there a problem with Black people being conservative? No.
Yeah,
to be quite honest, many Southern Black folks, I'm from Memphis, and many Southern Black folks are actually more towards the middle and toward the right end of their politics than many others. The point of the matter is that when we focus on the issues that address folks' quality of life, so it's about their safety in their communities, their ability to build wealth across generations, their abilities to receive equitable and high quality healthcare and education across the board. It is, those things matter. They're universal in terms of their importance for Black people and people in general. And I think when we focus on those issues, it's much easier for us to kind of strip away some of the labels that we've gotten so used to using.
I wanted to ask one question for Politics for Dummies, right? For most people listening to this, I'm sure they might be a little confused. You say, well, you have a Democratic Party, you have a Republican Party, you have an Independent Party. So now where does our Black Party fit in? So people might be confused and say, does it fit in? Can I register for our Black Party? Does that mean I cannot vote for Democratic things or independent things or Republican? So just break that down. Politics for Dummies, third grade level.
You can still be a Democrat, you can still be a Republican, you can be whatever it is that you choose to identify as. However, what we're asking you to do is sign up and join our Black Party. Again, we are not a third party. We do not have ballot status at this moment in time. It is something that we're looking for and looking towards in the future. But in the moment, what we're looking to do is arm Black folk with the weapons that they need to show up at the booth, to be educated on who it is that they're voting for. One of our policy platforms and one of our objectives is to provide sample ballots in key states across the country so that when individuals go to the booth to vote, we can say, these are the individuals who the Black Party have endorsed. These are the individuals who have answered our questionnaire. These are the people who we've spoken with, and here's how we grade them. This is who our Black Party suggests you vote for. So again, Malcolm X talked about the ballot of the bullet. And we believe firmly that our power is in our vote. but you have to be educated in terms of who you're voting for, what policies you need to be pushing. And that's what our political entity is pushing towards in the immediate. Does that break it down for you? Envy?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
You know, I want to, both of you have been big on equity. Wes, you had your equity package you developed in Charlottesville. Mayor Hollingsworth, you outlined 35 racial equity policy goals for Hyattsville. Is it easier to get that done on a local level than a national level? And is it more important on a local level or a national level?
Local politics are so important. There are so many things that are needed at the federal level, but quite honestly, where it actually happens and where you see the results are in your municipalities and in your counties across the country. And so that's where the network that we are developing is really important, because we have folks that are sitting on school boards, folks that are sitting in city councils in rural communities and in urban communities. That's where we touch the majority of Black people, is through that network of local officials. It's important that we make sure the big stuff is handled on the federal side and that we don't create perverse incentives in the U.S. government. For example, when Biden's talking about $300 million, investment in COPS programming, that is a perverse incentive that goes contrary to what communities are asking for with regard to law enforcement and minimizing their presence in communities. So mayors and city council members, school board members, county executives are much more likely to chart a path that is more equitable and that is more just for their communities. And it's oftentimes a lot faster and a lot easier to get those things done. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of funding. And so that's where the federal legislation can come in handy to provide these incentives for smaller communities to be able to enact those policies that their hearts desire.
Wes, what you
found on that? I just found on that very briefly. I know, like Candace and I, we talk a great deal about equity, as you alluded to. I wrote the equity package in Charlottesville, and that was in the midst of us removing or pushing to remove these Confederate statues. While individuals, again, often think that the presidential elections and the general election makes all the noise, as Candace also alluded to, we have to have a major emphasis on local elections, and that's what our Black Party is looking to educate our people on, as well as train up and build a pipeline of newly Black elected officials. So when we think about, just in layman's terms, African Americans we know have a higher propensity to be locked up in the current penal system. One of our steering committees, our national steering committee members, Ms. Stephanie Morales, she is one of less than a handful of Commonwealth attorneys or district attorneys, as they're called in other states, to be able to convict and prosecute a police officer for shooting an unarmed Black man. And this is what we're talking about, where we have to collect and focus our energy. We have to look at the district attorney races, the Commonwealth attorney races. We have to look at the school board races. We have to look at the city council races, the state house elections. But in order for us to do so, all of this energy that people are using across the country has to be channeled into a specific vehicle and policy platform for our needs to be heard. We can protest all we want. I'm an activist and protest at heart. We can be in the street, we can demand X, Y, and Z, but until these policies change, Black lives are not going to be affected in a positive way. And that's what we believe our Black Party has the ability to do. Individuals who have done it, as well as working with activists and organizers, to be able to train up our folks to make the change that we want to see in our community. So we need you to join us. We need you, Charlamagne. We need you, Envy. We need you, Yee. We need everybody who's listening to join us, ourblackparty.org, and let's get it.
Absolutely.
Wes, I want you to tell me, and I want both you and Mayor Hollingsworth to talk to me about your racial equity plans. I know your equity package in Charlottesville for marginalized communities. I want you to tell me about that.
Sure. So in Charlottesville, we were putting together, while a lot of people know about Charlottesville for the white supremacist attack in 2017, I was serving as the vice mayor, the only African American on the city council at the time, and wrote the resolution for the statues to be removed. Simultaneously, I wrote this legislation, the equity package, which was essentially $4 million in resources to underserved communities. So it was $50,000 in GED training for anybody who lives in public housing, $50,000 for anybody who lives in public housing to attend our local community college. There was a job training program with resources allocated to it, $2.5 million for public housing redevelopment. And we've been talking about doing redevelopment in Charlottesville since 1990. I was born in 1986. Wow. So when you talk about why it hadn't happened, a lot of that was because of resources. So we were able to get money into that. We renovated the traditionally African-American park Thompson Park where brothers play. It's like the Charlottesville version of the Rucker. So again, it was nearly $4 million in resources to have a direct impact on our communities. And then we followed that up with what was known as the Business Equity Fund, in which we allowed for individuals who are identified as socially disadvantaged individuals, which is a federal designation, to receive up to $30,000 at a 1% interest rate to either start or scale up those businesses with a specific intention on addressing Black-owned businesses. And we've seen nearly 10 to 15 Black-owned businesses start up since that policy was passed. And that is what we're looking to do. You have to implement policy that's going to have a positive impact on our people. But we cannot depend on Democrats, Republicans, or independents to do so. We have to be the ones to be able to push these policies, and we believe that our Black Party will allow us to do so.
You know, Mayor Hollingsworth, you had 35 racial equity policy goals. Just give us the top 5 of those.
Mm-hmm. So for the 35 goals kind of came out of, for me, the latest situation with George Floyd, as horrible as it was really a wake-up moment for people across the country, including myself. And a lot of us, and one of the things you might see in the articles, I say Black politicians don't move in the same way as they used to. We have gotten so used to the fact that many of us are elected by predominantly white electeds, even if our cities are majority Black. And we have to own that truth and that reality about how we come into the seats of power. And we can't forget why we've gotten to those seats in the first place. And so for me, it was about making sure that our city, because it has a racist history, reckons with its past and gets to a point where it says, you know what, we are going to fiercely commit to defending the lives of Black people in this city. We've made mistakes in our past. We acknowledge those, and we need to move forward from that point to do things a bit differently. As far as equity measures, for me, the things that are most important is about housing and affordability is one of the primary ones. The thing that keeps me up at night is watching a community that is transitioning from working class and Black and brown, and seeing more people move in that are not respectful of the culture and the history of those communities and see them as a nuisance, and not investing in affordable housing for our communities, not investing in education for our communities and universal pre-kindergarten for that. Reforming our law enforcement and the way that we police our communities to make sure it's more holistic and serves the community needs first, and addressing mental health and the trauma that many of us surround that includes internalized white supremacy in the way that we manage our communities and the way that we govern ourselves. Those are things that I see as top priorities, at least for Hyattsville, and that's a localized perspective. That is not to say that is, the thing that that's going to be the same in every community across the country.
But when I hear you and Wes talk, man, I'm like, the stuff y'all are proposing on a local level are better than what's in Biden's Black agenda now on the national.
Absolutely.
So it's like, why couldn't these equity packages that y'all are presenting, these equity policies y'all are presenting, why couldn't those things work on a national level?
It can, and that's exactly why we need our Black Party to be the vehicle to push these policies. I mean, when you look at, there's several policy agendas and platforms that are absolutely phenomenal. We're working with our sister Alicia Garza and adopting the Black to the Future policy agenda from Black Futures Lab. Y'all look them up. They're doing phenomenal work. When you look at the Movement for Black Lives, they just put out some policy stuff. And shout out to everyone who's working with them. There's several policy agendas that are out there. It's just whether or not there's the political will to actually push these policies forward and be bold. And I'm just going to be candid. Like, there's a presidential election going on, but we cannot allow ourselves to believe that these individuals are going to save Black folk. Dr. King had a line that I live by. Nobody else can do this for us. No Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, then we must do this for ourselves. And it is time for us to own our politics. We are free people. So let's own our politics. We can put all of the infighting away. People try to do character assassination and all this other stuff. We can do that all day. But it's time for us to come together and fight each other and fight for each other. Excuse me.
All right. Well, tell them the information one more time. Give them the information where they can sign up.
So you can sign up online at www.ourblackparty.org and on all social platforms at Our Black Party.
All right. Well, Mayor Candace Hollingsworth.
One more thing. How can Our Black Party disrupt this year's election? Is this something that you're looking to disrupt this year, or is it more of a long-term play? Like, what is it?
Yeah. We're here for the long run. So we're here to ensure that Black folk and the policies and the practices that we're looking to advance for our communities is not just a one-time thing. So again, when we talk about developing 1,000 new Black elected officials by the year 2024, when we look at adopting and appointing statewide equity, diversity, chief diversity and equity officer in all 50 states. That's a long-term plan. When you look at every municipality in the United States of America having a commission on African-American advancement, that's a long-term play. So that's what we're looking to do. But also, we are putting all of the presidential candidates on notice. Our Black Party is here, and our vote must be earned. Our vote is not free. Our vote is not to be taken for granted. Our vote must be earned. And if you want to find out what you want to do to get our vote, come on and check us out. Come sit down with us. I've spoken personally with Vice President Biden on a couple of occasions. I've spoken with a wide variety of different people. But all of that means nothing if our voices aren't heard and our priorities aren't centered. Black folks and Black lives matter only when Black policies are put at the front. And that's where we're at with it.
All right.
So Charlamagne, Envy, y'all tell everybody to sign up. Y'all go ahead and donate.
You telling them right now. You telling them right now.
Our Black Party.
Our Black Party. Dr. Wes Bellamy, thank you.
Launch day. Let's go.
That's right. Mayor Candace, thank you so much.
Yeah, Wes is my guy, man. And, I think that we need a Black Party. And I think Our Black Party is it. And I trust Wes because of his past his political experience. And I trust Mayor Candace Hollingsworth because of her political experience. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that, man.
I just want to say, when this Black man needed some water out in South Carolina, Wes didn't help me. He definitely helped me. Appreciate y'all so much, brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right,
sister.
guys.
All right, Queen.